Hey guys, welcome back to the Lawrenceville Bicentennial Podcast. This season, we've talked to the people that know Lawrenceville best. I'm your host, Nate McGill from Gwinnett Magazine. It has been my pleasure to talk through the many memories and milestones of our guests this season as we've talked through the 200-year history of Lawrenceville. From early dirt roads and attempts to rid the courthouse lawn of livestock to the formations of a strong and thriving county seat and business district, today we look back at some of our favorite facts and finds discussed on the show so far. So this will be a fun ride as we talk to all of the amazing guests that we've had on the show so far. December is the official month for the Bicentennial in Lawrenceville. So we have a lot to celebrate today, and we've got a lot of guests that we're going to show clips from that helped us do that, celebrating all year long. Our first guest was City Manager Chuck Worthington, and he and I sat around the table and discussed early Lawrenceville history and used some of his engineering background to kind of figure out why Lawrenceville was chosen as Gwinnett County's county seat in the first place. It's really fascinating stuff. Hope you enjoyed this clip with City Manager Chuck Worthington.
Chuck, first I want to start off by talking about the city itself. Maybe some of the early history in Lawrenceville. How did the city first get the name Lawrenceville?
So the first postmaster, William Maltby, made a recommendation to name the city after Captain James Lawrence, who was a naval commander in the War of 1812, and he's mostly remembered by "Don't give up the ship," as a quote that most people remember him by, and so that was how Lawrenceville first got its name.
Oh, very interesting. Don't give up the ship. Kind of like, that's a good motto to live by, right?
It really is.
So what is your history with Lawrenceville? I know you go way back in Gwinnett County. Your family is here. You're one of the few natives to Gwinnett still living here and working here and doing a lot for your hometown. Tell us a little bit about that. What's your history? What's your journey been to get into the city manager position here?
So I'm going to go back a little bit about my family history.
Sure.
I'm ninth generation Gwinnetian. My family moved to Gwinnett County in 1826. So really 5 years after the city was formed and chartered. That forefather of that family moved to the Norcross area. Over a period of time, my great-grandfather moved to the Buford-Decula area, and that's where I grew up in the Hog Mountain area, if you know where that's at.
Absolutely.
Now, I had a lot of history related to my family, related to the Lawrenceville itself. My mom's family, her great aunt had a house near the depot area there, so my mom actually grew up visiting the city of Lawrenceville quite often. And she also taught at First Baptist Church. So I spent a lot of time there with my mom there teaching at the kindergarten there at First Baptist Church.
First Baptist, that is downtown with a gigantic tower.
That's right.
I went to preschool there.
Yeah, and my mom may have taught you music.
She could have.
Yeah.
Very, very well.
And the other part was growing up in the Decula area, we did not have, the park system was not expanded like it is today, so there were no ball fields. So
Right.
I played all of my early years of sports in Lawrenceville. And so one of the former mayors, Rex Millsaps, was my first T-ball coach, actually. And so, it's the tie to Lawrenceville for my family has, continues to draw back.
Right.
How I ended up in Lawrenceville as the city manager was right at 5 years ago. I was the executive director of a community improvement district in Norcross, actually where my family had moved to in the early 1800s, and was there for 10 years, and the position of city manager came open in the city. We had just changed our form of government from a city manager, from a mayor leading the city from a day-to-day standpoint to a professionally run city where the city manager is hired to run that on the day-to-day basis.
Right.
That happened in 2014, and I started in 2016.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
What made you want to stay at home and work and do your work here? Was it your family?
It just the community.
Yeah.
Obviously, the family roots. There's a tie there that in a history that obviously draws you here. But the community of Lawrenceville, the Decula area, the surrounding areas, just in Gwinnett County in general, is a great place to raise your family. It's a great place to have a business. And frankly, it's a great place to be a part of the community, live, work, and play, I guess you could say. And so that's what has always kept me here beyond my family roots.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So what did you go to school for?
So I graduated from Decula High School, and then I went to Georgia Tech. I graduated there in 1993 with a civil engineering degree. And so I've been an engineer ever since.
Did you play some football, Chuck?
I did. I played. I was a wide receiver on the national championships team in 1990. I was a freshman there. A great experience.
Wow.
And from there, I went into private consulting for right at 13 years. And so the engineering background that I received, not only from an education, but really being taught how to find solutions, has served me well, not only in the consulting business, but also finding solutions for the abundant of issues that come up almost on a daily basis as city manager.
Going back into the early days of Lawrenceville, back into that history, with your engineering eye, why do you think that Lawrenceville was chosen for the county seat? Why did they choose to build the courthouse there in 1824?
And so I think it was really the center of Gwinnett County. So geographically, number one, it's as close to the center as any other city in Gwinnett County. There's also an abundance of springs. Anytime you go through history, you will see civilizations kind of build up around waterways and rivers and springs. And so there's an abundance of springs. Actually, there's a spring that starts right near the historic courthouse on the downtown square.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And it flows through Lawrenceville Lawn and now the South Lawn development. When they just redeveloped the South Lawn development there, they put in a 9-foot pipe underneath that development that carries that spring all the way out to the Paper Mill Road, all the way down into the Archer High School cluster area.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea. Did that have anything to do with the early water system? Or
it does. And so the original water system we had in the early to mid 1900s was all fed through the wells.
Wow.
And that system served the city well for decades. The forefathers of our city realized you really can't have a growing, thriving community with business and people living without a water source. And obviously the springs provided that, and had the system built with actually with some funds through the federal government. And then here recently, we sold it to Gwinnett County because we've outgrown the system.
Right.
We were actually only producing about 20% of the water, and the other 80% was actually coming from Lake Lanier.
Right.
And so financially, it just didn't really make a lot of sense
Sure.
to continue to maintain that system.
It's fascinating history, though, to think that way back in the day, there was no Lake Lanier, and some of the folks that have just recently moved here may not even realize how young Lake Lanier really is comparatively to history. But talking about a city that has 200 years of history, having that underground spring there, providing water for citizens, you had to have it. So that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so water was one major reason why the city developed there. The reason is obviously geographically, but having the transportation corridors. Today we look at at one point there were 5 state routes that actually went into the downtown area. We have recently removed those state routes, and they're just local roads now to give the city more flexibility. So
Right.
you have those. At one time, there were not cars driving on those, but there were horses and
Wagons,
mules,
right? Yeah.
That's right. And so all of those trails ended up being from all over the county, kind of focused into the center of the county. And then obviously along came the railroad. The railroad is right off the downtown area. We call it the Depot District.
Right.
And that served the city very well over many years. And obviously the train tracks are still there.
Yeah. And now, and there were several over the history. There were several different, I guess, lines. I know we've talked a little bit about in the past on our history podcast, the L&L, that the tracks are kind of no longer there, but now there's sort of a walking trail development happening along that same corridor, which is very relevant to history. So that's pretty cool.
It really is. So, when you really think about the transportation corridors that we have today, they all have names associated with them. And we think these roads have been here forever. And frankly, they have been. They just weren't paved.
Right.
They were trails. They were dirt trails. And sometimes they were, had cobblestone and gravel and things like that. And so, it's really interesting to see how, Gwinnett County overall has developed, and, it really was around certain trails. Old Peachtree is one that goes way back for Gwinnett County. It's very close to Lawrenceville, and that was a major trading route for the early settlers that were here in Gwinnett County. So
right, yeah, amazing. A good piece of trivia: the first paved road in Gwinnett County, US 29. Now, when I was growing up, we called it 29 Highway. What did you guys call it?
Called it Lawrenceville Highway.
Lawrenceville Highway.
Yeah. And that road obviously goes by the Central Gwinnett High School. It's a major corridor. And, the neat story about that, it was the community got together with the Chamber of Commerce and really advocated for that to be paved. Because they, just like the original forefathers knew the importance of water, it really grew into transportation corridors. And they understood that being the first paved road, it needed to be paved because it went all the way into Atlanta.
That was a great first episode with Chuck. If you guys want to check that out, make sure you go back on the feed, make sure you go back on the YouTube page, and you find that full conversation. And that's true for all of these clips that we're going to be talking about. Usually these episodes run about 30 minutes long, something like that. So make sure you go back and check out the full version of each and every one of these podcasts. We're going to start off this clip with the amazing former mayor of Lawrenceville, Judy Johnson, as she corrects yours truly on the factual pronunciation of her father's name, which, I think that when you really talk through the history with the people that know the city best, you find these great nuggets of information that you simply can't find when you're just reading about it. So this is a pretty cool clip. And of course, we talk a lot about the legacy of her father and her own legacy in the city of Lawrenceville. Check out this clip with former mayor of Lawrenceville, Judy Johnson. Check it out.
So you mentioned your father's office. Your father was Rhodes Jordan, right?
Rhodes Jordan.
Jordan.
It is pronounced Jordan instead of Jordan.
I only said it wrong so everybody else would know.
That's good because my father would correct you immediately.
Would he really?
Yes.
So Rhodes Jordan. Wow. Well, see, it's hard because I grew up going to Rhodes Jordan Park. That's the way that my family always had said it. And so we'd go play sports at the park and did Little League there for years, did all of that for years. And my family mispronounces everything anyway.
Well, I think you are not unlike 99% of the people in Gwinnett County that still say Jordan instead of Jordan. But I think the Jordan is just for family tradition, and it's always the way it's been said.
Now, he was actually, so he came up early. Was he also a native from here?
Yes, he was.
And I know he served in World War II as well.
He did.
So maybe walk us through a little bit of his story coming up.
I will be glad to do that. I will go back to my great-great-grandfather, Will Jordan, and he came in to Gwinnett County, I think, in the early 1900s. And he was a farmer. And then my grandfather was here also. And my grandfather owned a general store in the city of Lawrenceville. Right now, it's in the same building as my dad's office for the bottom part of La Consuela.
Okay.
Was my grandfather's general store.
All right.
So at an early age, my father used to go work in the general store, and it was open from 6 in the morning to about 10 at night. So that was really a bustling place for the people of not just Lawrenceville, but Gwinnett County to come and do the merchandising, especially during the weekend. In the upstairs, before it was my father's office, was a telephone exchange. So the first telephone was in that building.
In the general store.
In the general store. And people would come on Saturday to use the telephone.
So it was hustle bustle around there.
It was hustle bustle around there. It sure was.
So he probably encountered a lot of action in that store because everybody was coming in to make their phone calls and do their business.
He was part of the action and learned a lot of stories from there and enjoyed working there. His father said that he would probably not do well in the future working in a general store. But as a sidelight to that, before I continue with it, my father got appendicitis at the age of 13 and had to be taken to Grady Hospital.
Okay.
And at that time, my grandmother stayed with him, and his sisters could only come after 3 weeks of his stay, and they walked around his bed, and his father was crying. But to illustrate the fact that we're all part of one family, his good friend Rube Smith took the bus to the hospital and brought my dad an orange. And that was a true act of love, and that's what we felt as families growing up. When he came home, unfortunately, he had peritonitis and almost died.
Oh, my goodness.
But he survived and obviously graduated in Lawrenceville High School and went on, wasn't sure what he wanted to pursue as a career, although his dad had said, farming or being in the general store business is not the way to go. So he wanted to go to law school.
Okay.
But an interesting fact that many people may not know is that the city of Lawrenceville had a pauper's house. And my dad had a really kind heart, and he would go to the pauper's house and he would conduct funerals for the people that did not have someone to conduct a funeral. And he would get the kids in the neighborhood to come sing.
Wow. And
every Sunday he would take he and his sisters down to the pauper's house, and they would just talk to the families there.
Wow. Big heart then.
He had a big heart. He had a big heart.
And I would imagine that, if your general store is out looking at the courthouse and you've got all the phone calls coming through there, I mean, I could kind of understand how he would be attracted to the legal profession and just the community at whole, because he probably had a really good picture from that general store of everything that was going on in that town.
He did.
Yeah.
So he pursued law school at night, and then he was called to serve in the Navy in the 1942. And so he was sent to
Is he drafted?
the Philippines. He was.
Drafted?
He was drafted. And another unique story that Mary Long tells in her book entitled About Lawrenceville is that my father was sent to Norfolk, Virginia for basic training. And at that time, it was common that if a city had a train coming through, that the soldiers would drop a note and hope somebody would pick it up. And in that note would be a message to the family members. So my father dropped a note in South Carolina, and it stated that his name was Rhodes Jordan, and he was being sent overseas, and he would not see the family, but the train would be coming through Lawrenceville at the depot, and please contact A.B. Jordan and see if my family can come to the train station and look for me. And it happened.
Wow.
That they were there, and he waved out of the window to them.
Oh, that's amazing.
And that's a great story too.
Yeah, that's a very heartwarming story.
So when he came home from serving in the U.S. Navy, he was a signalman, and to his death, he could give you the signals that he used on the ship.
He's kind of legendary for having an incredible memory, and could tell you details descriptions of a lot of things in life. Did he have a photographic memory, you think?
I would say he had a photographic memory. It was astounding.
Really?
He could really remember what happened, who it happened to, and what happened to him after the event that he was talking about.
And so he could still recall all those signals he was doing.
He could.
And people who were at certain events at certain times of certain days. That's amazing.
It was an incredible story. And then he finished law school, obviously, and his building, as you have alluded to earlier, is where La Consuela was. And Emery Morseberger remodeled that building. And at the corner of the building, there is a plaque that has my dad's picture over it. And there is a saying there in which he said, "I've always looked over the courthouse lawn my entire life," which was very true, considering he worked at the general store, where the bottom of the building is now, and the upper story was his office.
My goodness. So legendary. Every time you're walking through downtown Lawrenceville, there's always a piece of history that you're kind of unaware of. So next time you're at La Consuela and you're getting a taco or anything like that, think about that. Take a look at that, where that's at. And if you're really nice, Carlos over there might let you go upstairs and take a look out that window.
Wasn't that so great? Man, I really enjoyed talking to former Mayor Judy Johnson about her dad and her history. You know, she was the first female mayor of Lawrenceville, and we talked a lot about that on that episode. So make sure you go back and listen to the full episode. There's a lot of great stories in there about Lawrenceville history. Next up is current mayor David Still. David also has a rich family history in Lawrenceville. And we talk about that. And right at the very beginning of the show, we talk about his family history in the city, the old Gwinnett Daily Post that he worked at with his father, who founded that newspaper, and so much more. We have some great stories, some history about Larry Flint, about pigeons on the square, and that entire episode is just great. You got to go back and listen to the whole thing. You know, they say that local history is best described as family history gone public. And so it's so great just to talk to some of these folks that have rich family histories and were there, and they remember it, and they know what it was like back in the day. So check out this clip with current mayor of Lawrenceville, David Still.
Today in the studio, we have Mayor David Still. Thanks for being here today.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited that you're here. Your family goes way back in Lawrenceville and Gwinnett.
It does. We fourth generation, at least I know that. We're doing some additional research, but I know at least fourth
generation.
Yeah.
Why don't we start like at the beginning of you grew up here?
I did. Yeah.
And so why don't we talk about your family history first and kind of get into that a little bit?
So my great grandfather actually bought a house for himself and his three daughters and their husbands, all on Jackson Street. So I would, as a young kid, go visit my grandmother and my aunts all the time. And that's when Jackson Street was a 2-lane road, and you just pulled over on the side of the road. That would also be the road where I was riding a bicycle and had been told not to. But Joe Archer and I went and rode our bikes and then got in trouble because somebody called my grandmother told my dad, and then I was in trouble at the end of the day. So,
oh my goodness.
Those fun times like that. But that's what I like about, small community, people knowing each other, live, work, play community. And that's what we're actually trying to bring back to Lawrenceville with having all the infill with the residential units coming in, both rental and homeowners.
A lot of walkability,
right,
a lot of all that. And now we know it all traces back to the time he got in trouble riding the bike.
That's right.
It's deep. It goes deep.
It goes deep.
It was a long game.
It was a long game. Who knew that was going to influence me so? But and what's interesting is my great-grandfather for a short time was chief of police of Lawrenceville. And so he would have used the jail at the old City Hall, the jail that's behind it. My wife and I own that building.
Right
on
down
Croton
the
Street.
so the alley, like if you're at Strange Taco and you go across the street, there's a
Right.
little alley there,
Right.
and you can walk back through there, and you'll see the bars
Yeah.
in the window there.
Yeah, it's 700 square foot building, and it's got the bars and the beds. So it's
It's amazing.
four,
It's still there.
Yeah, 4 cells, and so my great grandfather would have been there. My grandfather was actually for a short time on city council of Lawrenceville,
Wow.
and then my dad bought the building, and then he and I owned it together. I forgot exactly when we bought it, but I've been in that building ever since I was age 8
Wow.
in some form or fashion with my dad or owning it myself and having businesses there.
That's incredible. It just goes back that far.
Yeah. So it's, but yeah, our family has enjoyed Lawrenceville. I know that we came from the Decula, Harbins area, Walton, South Carolina, North Carolina. Eventually, you go down that way. I was reminiscing with Dennis Still, or Judge Still. He was over 40 years, I think 42 years. He was the city judge for Lawrenceville.
Okay.
And Dennis and I are third cousins.
Wow.
So I get called Dennis a lot, so because he came before me. So
So your dad was a newspaper man,
right.
and you worked in that business coming up. How did that happen?
Well, he was really interested in newspapering, even in high school. Worked at the local paper, the News Herald, went to UGA and journalism school, continued through that process. He worked with other publishers other than the News Herald, but at the end of the day, he helped start the Gwinnett Daily News right there in the 1969-61 time period, and then started his own paper in 1970-71. And so...
Fascinating stories about that, because today when you talk about a newspaper, I guess folks, have whatever connotation of the last newspaper they read and what that is. But long ago, the newspaper man was a totally different kind of thing. I mean, a lot of them were owners in the paper, and it was a specific business, and there was this call to journalism. It was a different kind of world.
Right. It was, for instance, the Georgia Press Association. That was a big thing that once a year, all the families that own newspapers would all go to Jekyll and have a conference. But it was generational. It was generation after generation, and in that particular city. And so then you get to know people by by their newspaper and what city they were in, and so you have these long time relationships in the newspaper world. I have not been in the newspaper world since 1994 when we sold the paper to Gray Communication.
Right. It's interesting to look back and, you grow up around here. You remember Gwinnett Daily News, and then I'm not sure of what happened with the history of that paper. I think the New York Times come in at one point.
The New York Times bought it,
Okay.
and then they got into a major war with the Cox Enterprise.
Okay.
With AJC, and at the end of the day, New York Times shut down the newspaper.
Interesting.
And so then that was a kickstart for then our newspaper to take off. So then it changed from Gwinnett Home Weekly to Gwinnett Post Tribune to Gwinnett Daily Post as it is today.
Right. And that's what people really will remember is Gwinnett Daily Post more than anything else. And of course, it's still around.
Right. Because we have so many people moving into Gwinnett County. So I was born in 1961, and there were, if I have my facts correct from Wayne Shackelford, because you always quote him because he knew everything about Gwinnett, was 30,000 people in Gwinnett in 1961. So now here we are, almost 1 million people. So a lot of new people come in, so they don't know anything about that past. They're focused on the future.
Right. When you look at the history of you come in and oh, this is the news channel we watch. Oh, this is the newspaper we got. And you don't really think about, wow, these are deep roots in the origins here. And so the Post, the Gwinnett Daily Post, the building that is now Iron Shield Brewing, is that the same building at one point?
That was Gwinnett Daily News.
That was Gwinnett Daily News.
Right.
Okay.
And then they moved to the building off of Shallowford and 85, which is now a middle school.
Okay.
The Radford Middle School.
Interesting. So fascinating. Yeah. And then you guys started downtown in the building
so
there.
in the building that I'm still have offices in. Yeah. So that's where it started. Dad started downstairs. Then he took up upstairs. He was renting at that time. Then bought the building. And then when we expanded quickly, we were renting a few other buildings down the street that are no longer there. The bank is there now. And then we moved over to where now New City Church is. We rented that facility for a while before it was then moved to Old Norcross Road when we sold it.
So you've seen the life around the square change a lot in your lifetime.
Right.
And it seems like you've always been
on the square.
On the square.
Yeah. It was, I watched the death of downtown Lawrenceville. In the 80s, when there was a lot of growth and the county was growing quickly before GJAC was built, they pretty much ended up renting the entire downtown area and the square. So it killed that. Between that and the malls coming in, it killed the downtown area.
Yeah.
And now, of course, it's got its own vibe and it's going great. But back in the day, the going rate was $500 a door. Didn't matter what size of building you were renting, it cost $500. That's what the family that owned a lot of the property rented it for.
That's unbelievable.
So the county took that and loved that.
So the county was, I didn't realize that they were using the whole square at that time.
Pretty much. I mean, there were very few, particularly all the property where on the Pike Street across from the historic courthouse, of course, the historic courthouse, and then many other buildings around the square.
I remember getting my hair cut at Simonton's, and that was about it. But I was a kid in the 80s, so I don't really remember a whole lot of what else was down there, but that's why we went down there.
Well, like where the fountain is now, there were two buildings there. And so one of them was where the parole office.
Okay.
And so the reason those burned was the gentleman was trying to get rid of his records because he was on parole.
Oh, my gosh.
So he went and burned a building. Unfortunately, he burned the wrong building. So he came back and burned the correct building. And that's why we lost both those buildings.
Oh, my gosh. The same guy.
Same guy.
Same guy trying to burn his records. Goodness gracious. They caught him, I hope.
They did. I will tell you some interesting things that I've noticed as of late. With my mother passing away back in March, Dad passed away 2 years ago, April 30th. I'm going through so many old photos. And one thing I found where now Sykes Davis building is at the intersection of Croghan and Clayton, I found a picture of my dad when he was a soda jerk.
Oh, wow.
And so it's taken from the back of the store. It was Williams Drugstore.
Yeah.
And so you have a tin roof, or a tin ceiling rather. And then my dad's real young and he's at the counter, but you can see all the different stuff that the store, sold. And I also have a picture I found of my grandfather who, he was quite the entrepreneur. At different times, he owned businesses of gas stations, restaurants, taxi cab, a pool hall, all in the downtown area. And I have a picture of when he had one of his restaurants, and there he was a pretty big guy, and he has a white apron on, and he's standing behind the counter, and it's got the swivel seats that that chrome type swivel seats people would sit in, and people are eating at the counter, and he's behind it, and we still actually have some of those original bowls he had at the restaurant. So I plan to put that on display at some point.
Yeah, that's history.
Yeah,
that's pretty crazy. That's awesome. It's cool that they still had all that kind of stuff. My family was not very good at keeping anything for very long.
My family has kept a lot. I can tell you, we're going through a lot of stuff right now. But, of course, I remember as a kid walking to downtown when the Hustler magazine publisher was shot, and
Larry Flint, right?
right,
Yeah.
and so I was
That's crazy that there's just so many different things that have happened in Lawrenceville over the years that hit national news wires. And so that definitely was one of them that kind of unfortunately put Lawrenceville on the map for something just way out of the blue.
right. That's not really what we would like to be known for,
Right.
but I had a lot of people ask me, "Oh yeah," so
Yeah.
that type of thing.
Yeah.
But I do remember the yellow tape and all that, and
What a day.
yeah.
Just kind of a crazy thing. Well, that was the courthouse, that's where they were trying
Right.
any case of any sort of significance down there. And you look through the history, the volumes and the newspapers, flipping through newspapers and seeing some of the stories that kind of came out of Lawrenceville. It was certainly one of them.
Yeah, I remember one story Judge Reed Merritt was talking about one time. They were having a problem. That's when they actually had court at the historic courthouse. And they were having a problem with pigeons. And they were somebody in the county government gave permission for people to come and shoot the pigeons. He said it sort of scared him a little bit when he was in court and somebody's,
Pow!
yeah, there you go.
What's
Yeah,
that? It's the pigeon ordinance we have around here. Yeah, good old Georgia boys out there getting some pigeons.
Yeah.
That's funny. That was a fun conversation with Mayor David Still. Make sure you check out that entire episode back on the podcast. Up next is some wonderful people from the Depot District in Lawrenceville. When you think about Lawrenceville, sometimes you can think about just the businesses surrounding the historic courthouse in the square, but Lawrenceville stretches well beyond that. And with a population growing and booming of over 30,000 residents, you got to think big. All of the guests on this episode were from the Depot District. Two with amazing breweries in town, Slow Pour and Iron Shield. And also Lawrenceville's kind of known for its florists. And all the incredible people in that business kind of form a district in and of itself in Lawrenceville. And we had a guest from Tropical Roses. All these business owners from the Depot District in Lawrenceville. Check out this clip.
Hey, today we're here with a party that's about to happen, a birthday party for Lawrenceville turning the big 200. Today's guests are all from businesses in the Depot area of Lawrenceville. Now, the Depot area of Lawrenceville has been important since the late 1800s when trains first arrived to the area. Back in those days, it was cotton factories, corn, lumber, brick manufacturing, livestock, and it was fueling the economy of the area. But this new train moved in, and freight now could be shipped all the way to the eastern seaboard. And basically that turned Lawrenceville into this cool transportation hub that really spurred its early economic growth. Today, the Depot area is sitting right between the downtown square and the new College Corridor. The Collins Hill Road extension leads directly into the area between the square and Georgia Gwinnett College. So we hope that brings even more economic growth to the area. You guys are positioned really well to benefit from that. So it's pretty exciting. And so today we have guests from Tropical Roses, Slow Pour Brewing, and Iron Shield Brewing. And so let's make our way around the table and we'll find out why these fine folks chose Lawrenceville to be the home of their businesses. Why don't you introduce yourself first? We'll jump over to Tropical Roses and tell us a little bit about yourself and your business.
Absolutely. My name is Andres Rios from Tropical Roses, and we are a full-service florist as well as a wholesaler located in the Depot District in Lawrenceville. What sets us apart is the wholesaler part, that we're open to the public, because we're really unique in that way, in the sense of actually no one in Atlanta is open to the public as a wholesaler.
Oh, I gotcha.
Because we, what we want to do is facilitate the process of buying flowers in bulk, because we figured out that a lot of people were trying to do that for their special events, more specifically for like their weddings and things like that. Moms want to do their arrangements, make it a little bit more intimate, more special for the event, and that's where we come in, facilitate with consultations, buying process. We take care of all that for them.
So why did you choose Lawrenceville?
Well, we actually moved here back in 2007 with my family. We started the business in 2006, and we've never looked anywhere else, to be honest. We started out as a basement company, and we've been moving up, and now we're here, and we wouldn't be here without Lawrenceville, basically.
Wow, that's incredible. Let's hop over. We're gonna go around the table during this podcast. We're gonna hear all kinds of stories here. We're gonna move over to Slow Pour. Why don't you introduce yourself? You know what you do for the business, and why you chose Lawrenceville.
My name is John Reynolds with Slow Pour Brewing Company. I am one of the founding partners of Slow Pour. We opened our doors in 2017 in the Depot District. We're Gwinnett County's first craft brewery, which we're really excited about to be able to have that claim. And we chose Lawrenceville. I moved out to Gwinnett County in 1986, Georgia boy, born and raised. And went to high school, went to North Gwinnett High School, and then to Collins Hill High School. My business partner, Marty Mazzowie, he went to South Gwinnett High School. Our wives went to Central Gwinnett High School right there in Lawrenceville. So we've lived in Gwinnett County our whole lives and talked about how Lawrenceville really needed a craft beer scene of its own.
Right.
So now with Iron Shield being our neighbors, you know, that craft beer scene is doing really, really well. Good Word, Still Fire. You know, there's a bunch of us. Monkey Wrench.
Right.
So through that discussion, we looked at Lawrenceville because of the historic downtown area, the square, and the development that was going on there with all the great restaurants with Local Republic and McRae's and Cosmos and Foggy Bottom. I mean, the list goes on and is continuing to grow. So the draw to Lawrenceville as a destination, Aurora Theater, you know, there's a lot to bring people to Lawrenceville and to attract people to Lawrenceville. So we're just happy to be a small part of that.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's grown since 1986 quite a bit.
Yeah.
So you saw that whole growth and that whole expansion over the years. That's awesome that you chose home to be the place for your business. All right, let's keep going. Let's go around the table. Over here to Iron Shield. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Iron Shield, what you do for the company?
So my name's David Rice. I'm the CEO, one of the founding partners for Iron Shield Brewing. And, you know, we make beer, sell beer, try to provide entertainment. You know, what really brought us to Lawrenceville was we were in search of a building. We needed a building that had the right ceiling heights, kind of the right square footage and all. And we were searching all over North Georgia. There were a few towns that courted us. But when we came across the building in Lawrenceville, it was the right size. And then we talked to the folks with the city, the economic development folks, and they started telling us the story of everything that was going on. And of course, we went across the street, had a few beers over at Slow Pour, and saw the cool vibe that they had going on. And, you know, the whole story was around what their vision was for this Depot Entertainment District. And so we said, wow, that's an important part of this business, right? You got to have a building you can fit everything in, but then you want to be part of a cool community that has things going on. And so the more we learned, the more people we met, you know, going across over to Slow Pour, meeting folks over there, it was like, okay, this is our new home.
Wow. Now, do you guys work together in any capacity?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think in terms of, you know, the business models. If you look at craft beer scenes all around the country, the places that are famous, you've got a cluster of breweries, right?
Yeah, that's
Folks
cool.
can go and kind of make a day out of it. They can kind of hop around and go to different locations. And so that's really what I see is happening, certainly in Lawrenceville. You know, Lawrenceville is now becoming a destination.
Sure.
There's lots of restaurants, lots of cool shops. Now there's, you know, a couple of breweries. You know, maybe we'll have some more. Maybe we'll have a distillery at some point in the area. We've got a local artist there in the Depot area. And we're excited to see all of that grow. It's just the more there is to do, the more fun people can have. People come to Lawrenceville versus driving to downtown Atlanta.
Right. Yeah, that's really what people are looking for is what's local, what's close to me, and I think you're seeing more and more of that as history goes on. People are coming to the city hubs, and Lawrenceville certainly, as the county seat, is just kind of the place to be right now. With that college corridor coming in, you guys are real college students, and beer go together. I hear someone told me that once, so I hope that is. We're gonna have to call this area the Beer Garden Podcast because you guys brought the beer and you brought the garden. All right.
So part of the fun of being the host of this show is making my guests put up with my dad jokes. So there's that. So next up on the show is another amazing storyteller, Tim Whitson of Lawrenceville's Ghost Tours. This podcast just went off the charts. I mean, who doesn't want to hear some good ghost stories? And we shared a bunch of them on this episode. We're gonna tell one for the Bicentennial because you got to. So check out this clip with Lawrenceville Ghost Tours, Tim Whitson.
Today we are here with the wonderful Tim Whitson of the Lawrenceville Ghost Tours, and brought to you by Aurora Theater. And man, this is exciting because we get to tell some history in the form of its ghost stories. So, man, why don't you first start off by telling us a spooky tale? Why don't we just jump right in? Can you just jump right in and then we'll backtrack?
We can jump right in.
Let's jump right in. I want to hear something spooky. We got a pumpkin and everything. Let's go.
There you go. Well, right at the very beginning of the tour, we actually delve into the story of Patrick Burns, which some people might remember his name. He's done a little bit of ghost hunting before in the area.
Okay.
But back in 2001, so this is a couple of decades ago, he went down to the Lawrenceville Cemetery. And he didn't just go down he went down and for a short visit, and once he put his foot inside the door, he started to get chills down his back. And he immediately knew something paranormal was happening here. Yeah. And so the very next night, he decided to go ahead and spend the night in the cemetery. But he didn't spend the night alone. He actually got some guys from 11 Alive News. In a cemetery. Okay, gotcha. You'll get it later. But so he and a reporter from the 11 Alive News are down in the cemetery. And as it's getting darker, they start to see stranger and stranger things. And this was way before the TV show.
Oh, okay.
So as they're walking around, he's got, Patrick Burns has a personal camera. And of course, the reporter has a big old reporting camera.
Right.
And they're starting to walk around and they start to notice in the screens of their cameras, balls of light. Floating in midair.
Interesting.
And more than just that, they'll pass through certain areas and it'll seem like a curtain of light passes over their screen just briefly, kind of like gauze on the screen. And Patrick Burns looks at Joel, the reporter that's there with him. He says, something paranormal is happening here.
I think I remember this story. This was aired on 11 Alive.
And there's a link on YouTube that you can actually tie to the show that folks can go and see him and Joel actually walking around.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes.
You see these orbs wasn't all they saw. They'd be walking around. And well, it wasn't all they experienced. They'd be walking around. They'd hit a spot in the cemetery and the temperature would drop by 30 degrees. So this is a normal kind of summer evening, late fall evening. A little bit warmer, but they'd hit these spots and it'd get real cold.
Cold spots.
And then they'd move out of it.
Sign of ghosts.
Yep. Regular temperature back in, cold. And to make matters worse, in those same spots, whenever they'd step into the cold spots, the batteries on their camera would die.
Wow.
Just like that.
Crazy.
Then they'd go, replace their battery, come out to the same spot, it'd get cold, it'd die again. And now if that happened once or twice, you could call it faulty batteries.
Right.
It happened.
Kept happening.
It happened a half a dozen times while they're down there in the cemetery.
The world.
But the very strangest thing that they experienced actually happened after they got back from filming that night. They were reviewing a lot of their footage, and in some of their footage, they started to hear something.
Like voices?
Well, particularly one voice.
Oh,
it was a woman's voice, and it was mumbling and chattering and going on and on, real difficult to understand. And they tried to see if they could clean up the audio and figure out what it was saying, and they never could make out a bunch of words. And if you want to know why they heard that sound,
Yeah, I do. I want to know why they heard that sound.
you're just going to have to come on the tour and find out.
Oh my gosh, dude. That's a hook.
There you go.
I like it.
There you go.
Why don't you tell us about the tour? How did the Lawrenceville Ghost Tours get started? And, maybe tell us some of the history of the tour itself.
Yeah, so soon after Patrick Burns actually visited the cemetery, 4 or 5 years later, there was a fella trying to do a bunch of renovation around downtown.
Okay.
And part of that renovation was trying to get businesses to move in. Part of it was involved getting the Aurora Theater to move into the Lawrenceville area.
Right, yeah.
And as part of that, he actually went on a ghost tour in St. Augustine, Florida.
Okay.
And he came back and he went to the Aurora Theater. He said, this ghost tour was amazing.
Hey, this is what we got to do.
Lawrenceville must have a ghost tour.
Oh, very cool.
And so I'm not sure all that went down that very first year.
Yeah.
But all I know is that within 3 months of him saying that, the Aurora latched onto it and they got a ghost tour started.
Well,
that was back in 2005.
They're fun. They're fun for the whole family. You can take your family and get a little spooky. And, it's not interactive. It's different from, eating popcorn, watching a scary movie. You're out there hearing stories that happened in where you're walking. So it's fun. If you've never gone on a ghost tour, go down to Lawrenceville and check out this thing.
I can't tell you how much I enjoy having these conversations with the people of Lawrenceville, the folks who are bringing in tourism and trade, the folks who are attracting people to the city with their amazing restaurants and businesses. And also, you can't forget the nonprofits like Impact 46, who came on the podcast with Jasmine from the city to talk about their internship program as they have formed this amazing event wrapped around the Lawrenceville Summer of Impact that brings on interns from Lawrenceville's high schools and connects them with Lawrenceville businesses. Because no matter how good your economic development is in attracting businesses and people to the city, you gotta have people working for those businesses. And that's where workforce development comes in. And that's what we talked about on this podcast. And we got to know both Jen from Impact 46 and Jasmine. And I thought that this clip from the podcast was my favorite when Nicole talked about her personal experience as an intern. And that kind of led us into talking about what the real importance behind this is for businesses to get some interns to see the world as they do from their generational standpoint. It's a very cool clip. Check it out.
All right, firsthand testimonial from Nicole here. Now, tell us about your intern experience. How'd you hear about the program? What was it like going into the program? What made you interested in this kind of thing?
So at first, I followed the business academy at Discovery High School. So Mr. Cruz was like my administrator. So I kind of heard it from him at first. He was like, "Oh, are you interested in an internship?" And I was like, I've never heard about anything like this at Discovery. So I was like, okay, sure. So I stayed after school one day, and then they would just talk about like resumes, entrepreneurial skills and stuff like that, like how to be more, how to appear to businesses. And so it was just like, okay, this is something that I'm going to need. And it was like, it's something that, it's a job, but it's not just like a regular job like, oh, McDonald's, Burger King, like that. It's something that you can use. It's like going to prepare you for in the future, like when you go into your profession, whatever profession that you want to do. So it was like, that's what kind of intrigued me at first. It was just like, okay, so this is something, it's not just a job. Like, of course, we're all high school students. We're looking for, quick cash and all that type of stuff. But it was like a job that, okay, I will actually learn something from this that'll help me in the future. And so I had my interview with Jasmine, and I got the role as a community relations intern. And so from there, at first, I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to be doing.
Right, you just going in.
I'm just
like,
going in.
Yeah.
And so at first, she was just like walking me through everything, and she was like, this role, you're going to be doing everything on your own. I'm not going to be like walking you baby steps. So it was just like, okay, whoa, what is this?
Responsibility.
Right. So I learned like responsibilities. And of course, like she was there, but she had her own stuff going on.
Sure.
And so it was just like, we had our weekly meetings. And so it was like, that was your time to ask whatever questions, get whatever help that you needed. So I really enjoyed this experience. I feel like every high school student should be able to take this experience if it's given to them, because it really just helped me to like learn like responsibilities, how to work well with others, how to be like more vocal, and like I think like how to be more vocal with other people. Like, because at first I'm not shy, but I would say like if it's people that I don't know, I'm not gonna be like more vocal. But she was having me meet new people like every week, and I was just like, okay, so I'm gonna have to start talking, introducing myself, and things like that.
Yeah.
And so like we had like events every week, and like as a high school student, I would say Discovery, we're in Lawrenceville, but like nobody knows about any of the events or anything like that. And it was just crazy to see like all this stuff that went on in downtown Lawrenceville that I would never have heard of if I wasn't.
Isn't that amazing? The communication, like we think we're doing a great job promoting all the things we're doing locally, and then you ask some students on the street, and they're like, "I have no idea what you're even talking about." Why do you think that is? And from terms of communication, do you think it's social media is where people are getting their information from? You think that we're not doing a great job of spreading out the information?
Honestly, I think it's how you reach like certain people, because for high school students, like at Discovery, they used to give out so much information, and it'll be during lunch. Nobody's worried about getting information during lunch. We're trying to eat. We have 20 minutes, all that stuff. And then this year they started. They have an Instagram page, and like that's where everybody gets their information from. Like, and I feel like that's what's helping us more. I feel like how you get information to certain people. Like students, we're always on social media. So if you give us information through there, we're going to be able to receive it better.
Mm-hmm. So that's just like a real world example of like there's a problem that you invite an intern into your working environment. They're seeing it with brand new, fresh eyes, you know, a new generation, which like I just don't have the ability to see through your eyes, right? And then you can kind of say, hey, look, here's all of the gaps that you don't see. I can see those. And for business owners, I just feel like that is of tremendous value. And also for schools too, because, you know, they want their students to be engaged in the community. They're putting on their own events, but they are wanting that interaction. And it's just not always available from someone who they feel like, okay, this is safe to promote to students. So the benefits across the board seem to be like just tremendous. And there you go. I mean, that's the perfect example. You're putting on events in Lawrenceville. You know, your student intern is basically, Nicole's like, hey, look, we've never heard of any of this. And
and that shows you're like, okay, well, there is a gap there. And I think the beauty of that, like you said, from any business is that you get to see it from fresh eyes, but you get to also kind of be hip in a sense where you're able to connect to the students in their way. I think so many times you get into your silo of, okay, I know that this social media channel works, I know this billboard works, and things of that nature. But it's good to bring in fresh eyes to give you a fresh perspective of, you know, how to connect beyond just what you've done. Not that it's a bad way. It's just you may have to step out of that box and think creatively in a sense too.
It's thinking in that with the hyper local sensibility too, because you know you're promoting things for a city like Lawrenceville with population over 30,000 people in the city limits, in a county with a population of over 950,000 people. Our problem should be like, you know, stopping people from coming to the events more than
getting people.
Like we only can hold so many people, but that still isn't our issue. Our issue is trying to get people in the zip codes to come to our businesses, to come and you know, how do we communicate hyperlocally is all through relationships and our community. And if we don't engage with each individual generation, then we don't see the gaps. We don't know who we're missing. And you know, it's like you have to have programs like this in a community to be a community, right? Jim, maybe tell us a little bit about like where you hope this goes. I know that you have some really cool features of the program. I did want to touch on signing day because that's super cool. You know, like a sporting event, if you've ever been to like an NFL draft or anything like that, there is this moment where the students and you know, I guess the job creators and everyone gathers together and they sign on new interns. Tell us, how did you spark that idea? Where'd that come from?
We It actually came from an original partner. Her name is Deirdre Cox. And she was involved and we were kind of thinking from the beginning of this, we really wanted it to be about celebration, celebrating our local talent, celebrating that these students are way smarter than we ever were in high school, and to take a chance on them and to celebrate all those different things. And then it was kind of, what could we do at the beginning of this that is just so different, but is really focused on these students? And we found out that a majority of them are not athletes. And Jasmine and I are both former college athletes. And so we both had signing days.
Yeah.
And I can remember having that at my high school. And it was a really, really big deal. And it's a big deal nationally. It's a big deal personally and for your families. And so we were kind of like, let's tap into that, but let's celebrate that these students have earned these positions. I think that's what's very different from others, is that they're not assigned these internships. They have to go through 8 hours of workforce development training, and then they interview at the businesses. So the businesses are the ones that are selecting them. So when they're standing up on that stage and they walk across and it says, Nicole with the City of Lawrenceville, she earned that and she got that position. And I think that's a very proud moment, not only for the student, but we make sure that we recognize that and celebrate. But my favorite thing is to look out in the audience and see the parents and to see their reaction to it, and just the immense pride that is on their face. And then they come up to you afterwards and they're just kind of like, thank you so much for allowing us to be here and to see this. And then we do the same thing at the end of the summer. We celebrate again. We love to celebrate.
Yeah.
Celebration's good.
Celebration is always good.
I mean, you repeat what you celebrate.
That is
good or bad.
I love that. Did you guys catch that? That was right there is the hack for the day.
Yes.
You say it again.
You repeat what you celebrate.
You repeat what you celebrate. I love that.
If the Lawrenceville Bicentennial Podcast has taught me anything, it's that our conversations are critical. We have to talk, and we have to talk long enough that we get to the heart behind the issue, behind why we're doing what we're doing in the first place. And that is exactly what it's like when we surrounded the podcast table with those in the art community that know the importance that art holds for the city of Lawrenceville. It was an amazing conversation. We got real, we got deep. Check out this clip.
So I want to kind of end the podcast with kind of a deep question that maybe has no answer. I'm not sure. But what do you think is good art, sir?
Anything that you like.
Anything that you like.
So I've always found art, whether it's visual, music, theater, anything like that, it's all subjective, right? Ultimately to you, it's whatever you like. My answer is probably going to be completely different than yours. I'm going to be probably a little more favoritism towards glass in general, but
couldn't see that.
But at the same time, I really, honestly, my favorite probably artistic medium is movies. Like I love movies,
right?
Like adore them. I watch them probably more than I should, and just everything from the AFI to the comical Jerry Lewis things.
Sure.
And I have, so ultimately good art is whatever moves you, whatever soothes you, what gives you whatever you need, whether it's art as far as painting, sculpture, music, theater, whatever that drives you, that soothes your soul is good art.
I'll mention this before asking you the same question, but you mentioned movies, and I don't really get into my own background on this podcast, but working in the movie entertainment business for as long as I did, one of the things I would often tell other artists is that the movies are an industry, and so if you have a particular craft or art that you work on, the movies kind of like it's not as much about being a filmmaker as it is about being in that industry. So, I mean, no matter what you do, if you're into interior design, you can pretty much do that within the film industry as a set designer. If you're thinking about, even if you're a painter, even if you're an artist, like a drawer, as a film industry kind of grows, we need storyboard artists. You need people to like craft out through things. It's a way to supplement your income when an industry does move in. We've had some of that industry move into Georgia and into Lawrenceville. Specifically, as we're talking about Lawrenceville, we'll mention, Sleepy Hollow had their 3rd and 4th seasons shot a little bit in downtown Lawrenceville. Ozark kind of came into Lawrenceville. I think season 2 or 3, I can't really recall. But the funeral homes in Lawrenceville from the show Ozark, a couple different things that kind of hit landscape. You've had films like Instant Family shoot in city limits. You've had a lot of different movies and stuff that'll come in. And for us right now, I feel like the impact is good for the real estate market more than anything, probably, because they're leasing spaces and they're using the tax incentives to kind of film in our locations, which is a wonderful thing. But getting artists involved and into that world still remains, it's a struggle, but it's entirely possible by marketing yourselves in that area. Whether you're getting into the source book or you're calling the film commissions or you're letting people know that you're there. A lot of times the folks who even call are just folks that have filming locations. But artists themselves could also call and say, look, we do interior design. We source a lot of things for rented spaces and leased spaces, and that's just like a direct move into to do that for something like the film industry. So you're technically kind of still in the arts, but it's just under that field. And I guess that would work for a lot of other offsets and different ways that you could maybe supplement a particular type of art or design. But movies worth mentioning. Definitely, it's one of the arts that that are around cinematic storytelling. Definitely one of the important things, becoming more important to our region. So what do you think is good art? I mean, what kind of art do you see most in the gallery, and what do you think folks are responding to the most right now?
Well, what I work with primarily for Dizzy Gypsy, especially since it's mobile, is 2D art that I can hang on a wall.
Oh, interesting, yeah.
I have in the past hung some of Kelly's glass art on the wall, and he gets really creative about how I can do that, but primarily painting and photography. But you hit on something just now talking about film, about what I think is really good art. And it has to do with storytelling. I could go into Walmart or Target and pick out this really cute print of a cow, and that's all great and wonderful, but I have no connection to that.
Oh, that's good.
When I work with artists, which is my all-time favorite thing, I need to know their story behind a piece of art. I'll have artists that will send me progress pictures of things that they're painting. And then when I get that art, and it's my job to represent them out in the community, I love it that much more because I can go into somewhere where it's hanging and I can introduce myself to people or patrons and just say, let me tell you the story about this art, and let me tell you the story behind this artist and what they're doing with their life and why they wanted to express themselves this way. And people fall in love with it, and that's when they want to purchase the art. It's not just something that's visual and speaks to their soul. It's a connection to the artist behind the art that I think is really good art.
Yeah, that's very true. You have to have a soul in there and the story that aligns with your story in order for it to resonate. It's very well said. Very well said. So it all comes down to your answer here. What is good art?
Oh my goodness. Feel the pressure. Well, I have to agree with Kelly and Arlie. It's subjective. It's relatable, and I'm a huge fan of documentary photography, documentary film. I think what really makes art important is the sincerity in it from the artist, and as much as that's conveyed to the audience. If you can pick up, even if you don't like that particular medium, or I don't understand abstract art, or whoever is walking in and this doesn't make sense to me. If you can communicate that sense of sincerity, I think it inspires other people to tap into their creative outlet. That's healthy for our community.
Oh man, that's good.
We have at the Hudgens outreach programs where we work with developmentally different adults, those who are living with a cancer diagnosis, veterans who are experiencing PTSD. For them, the pandemic and isolation was a totally unique set of challenges. And through Project Welcome Home, that's the veterans program, they're doing monthly writing sessions. So 1 month it might be poetry and prose, another stream of consciousness writing, another business and professional writing. For the cancer patients, they're
communicating, all that's kicking around inside them psychologically, getting their heads around the diagnosis. For many, it's a terminal diagnosis. So they're painting, they're, messy painting.
Wow.
And sincerity is how it doesn't matter for how many years you spend studying art or studying the great masters. It's what's coming out of you that's genuine and raw and sincere. And I think that makes for really compelling art.
That is true. I mean, that I believe that 110% with my core, that you have to have that type of authentic approach to what it is that you're creating, no matter the skill level. And I think it's there. It just takes looking beyond the painter's reputation or the artist's reputation in a way. But if I did go back to that day with my wife in the art gallery, I probably, if I had not been like trying to impress a girl, I probably would have said like, okay, well, I love Rembrandt's, Prodigal Son, because it's not what you think it's going to be when you hear the title, because it's such a dark painting. Like the background is just so dark, yet it's the story of redemption. And it was something kind of personal into his story. And you see here Rembrandt and you're like, okay, well, he's well respected. That's a pretty safe answer, Nate, But if I said Thomas Kincaid, okay, then everybody would probably be like, well, I don't know. He manufactured a lot of stuff. He was in every mall in America. How do I feel about Thomas Kincaid? But then when I think deeper and I go, well, look, I don't know if you guys know this, but Thomas Kincaid, he died of an overdose. He was a deeply depressed individual. He was known as the painter of light. But all of those images that were so iconic, Norman Rockwellian, they were just so beautiful. Like when you have all that darkness inside you, he was painting the world that he wanted to live in. So his expression was there. It just is not appreciated because of the commercial value of it, right? So, and the duplication of it and all that kind of stuff, it kind of goes into the business of it. But at the end of the day, as just a singular painter, he's painting these wonderful, iconic Disney-like worlds. And at the same time, just internally, he is darkness. So it's just the conflicting, view is it's there. You're painting the world you're in. When you talked about the cancer patients and the folks dealing with something like that, or if you're dealing with addiction, or you're dealing with all these different kinds of things that can kind of go into your art, what is true about you as an artist that you can express? Don't try to make something that someone else is making. Don't try to copy. Don't try to just say, okay, well, that's a safe bet. Go for like what's in you. So if there's any artists listening, if there's kids listening, students listening, just want to let them know like that's the goal that you're looking for. Get better in your craft, get better in your skill, but be honest. And that's going to help you along your journey, whether somebody buys the painting or not. Mm-hmm. Does it help you from day to day? It's kind of like that's why we do art. That's why we make stuff. And go make the thing and don't wait until you feel qualified to make it. Go take a class at the Hudgens. Go learn how to blow glass. Go, put your art up in a gallery. Show the world of what you got. Bring your honest truth to the table. And I think that is the magic about the creative community and the artists that we have. And guys, Lawrenceville it's a booming place. If you look at it through the arts lens, I think you're going to really be able to open your eyes and see some amazing things that the city is doing, that these artists are doing. And I would encourage everybody to get more involved in the arts community here in Lawrenceville.
And that just about wraps it up here on the Lawrenceville Bicentennial Podcast. I want to thank all of our guests who came on the show this season to talk about how awesome Lawrenceville is, all the great things that they're doing in the city. Thank you for our city's leaders. Thank you for the City of Lawrenceville for helping put the show together and having folks come out and talk about all of the milestone and the personal moments that they've experienced in Lawrenceville's history. It has been an awesome ride so far, and we can't wait to do more of these. So like and subscribe to the podcast, follow us along, and until next time, you guys be good out there.